Hello Flosstube, welcome to Snickerdoodle Stitch. My name is Kathleen and this is a channel about cross stitch. So welcome, thank you so much for joining me. If it's your first time here, I'm glad you stopped by. And if you're a returning visitor, thanks so much. I know there is a lot of Flosstubers out there, a lot of competition, and a lot of amazing projects being worked on. So I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. I did want to start out with a shout out to another Flosstuber who actually gave me a shout out, and that is Stitching by the Shore. And I have watched her for a while, and I knew she was from what I'll call Eastern Shore, which is like Delaware, Maryland beaches, toward the bottom of the bay or the ocean, but I wasn't sure exactly where. And she shouted me out because another viewer, one of her viewers, commented that she should check out my channel, that I was another Delaware cross stitcher. So she has a fantastic Flosstube. She stitches a variety of projects, everything from samplers to full coverage, and she does paper crafting as well. So I always enjoy that because rubber stamping in particular was another huge hobby of mine. It was sort of what I had abandoned cross stitch for in my hiatus where I wasn't cross stitching, and now I have sort of lost the rubber stamping mojo and I'm back to cross stitching. I am sure rubber stamping will come up again. In fact, I have one thing I was going to share this week that is a stamping piece that I was working on because it relates to something cross stitch related that I was going to show. But back to Stitching by the Shore. She is from Rehoboth, which is the beach that I swapped on the Madame Chantilly with the little like beach cabanas and umbrellas. And it had the plane pulling the banner, and I think it originally said Holidays, and I changed it and made it say Rehoboth because Rehoboth was the beach that I worked at when I was in college. It was our weekend night hangout when I was in high school. At the time, it only took about 15 to 20 minutes to get there from where I grew up and where my dad still lives. But today, Friday, Saturday evening, it would be at least an hour to get down there, and you probably couldn't find parking. It might be more like an hour and a half. So it's just crazy congested now. But anyway, that's where Stitching by the Shore lives. So she's in Southern Delaware. I'm in Northern Delaware now. Dad's still in Southern Delaware. And I know for any of you from larger states, it sounds a little ridiculous. We talk about Southern and Northern Delaware, and it's very different. One's more urban, one's more rural. It's the beaches and farms in Southern Delaware, but you know, Delaware's this big. It's only an hour and a half top to bottom driving. So yeah, a lot different than, you know, when I talk to my friends that I work with a lot of people out of Utah and Arizona, and those states, you know, you drive 5 hours and you're still in the same state. Anywho, I do enjoy her channel, and I wanted to shout her back out. So if you've never watched her, I recommend checking out her channel. I am just back from Stitching in the Wild, so I have a lot to share with that. I have a lot of stitching this week. I actually have 3 finishes. I'm quite excited about one of them in particular. You'll see why. It's one that I've been working on for a long time. Stitching in the Wild was fantastic. So it's one of my favorite, probably one of my top 2 favorite retreats, and it's partly the size. It's 100 people, and I have found that that's kind of my happy spot for retreats. The larger retreats, while I enjoy them, they have a very different feel and vibe. So when you shrink down to 100 people, you really get to know a lot of people in the room, even if they're not at your table or they're not sitting near you. And the Stitching in the Wild is particularly like that. Just everybody talking to everybody else. Everybody's so friendly. I had fantastic table mates. I did not know any of them when I got there. So I had Angela, Debbie, Vicky, and Holly at my table. We only had 5. Most tables were 8. Ours, I think one table nearby wanted to squeeze in a 9th chair, so they had stolen one, and I'm not sure exactly how we ended up with only 5, but that was all that was at my table. I also had a fantastic group of ladies at the table behind me. I got to know them because most of my table were not late night stitchers, and I'm a late night stitcher, as were a couple ladies who were right behind me. So I had a good time chatting and meeting them as well. But yeah, just a fantastic retreat. Traveling there was a bit of an ordeal. So to fly from Philadelphia to Montgomery, flying down, I flew through Washington and had a 4-hour layover there. I looked into flying direct from Washington to Montgomery, but the ticket was going to cost more. I've never understood that. I've run into that before, but it never makes sense. Anyway, that was what I did going down. And then coming back, I had to actually fly to Dallas, wait 4 hours, and then fly back east to Philly. I learned a trick when I was down there. When I went down, I really went thinking this would probably be my last time, at least for a while, that I would be at Stitching in the Wild, just because it was expensive and very time consuming to get to Montgomery and back. But my friend Margaret, who went on the cruise to Alaska with me, Margaret shared the trick of flying into Atlanta, and then Atlanta's on the airport there is on the south side, and it's only like 2 hours and 15-minute drive to Montgomery. And even with the rental car, I did a little bit of research while I was down there at the retreat, and it was much cheaper. I mean, the airfare to Atlanta is not much at all. And there are like 50 different flight options. So that was the biggest challenge to Montgomery, was there really were not, it was very limited. Like there were 2 or maybe 3 flights down or back, and only one was hours that were going to work. So it was kind of nailed into one flight option, which was like my convoluted coming home through Dallas. So anywho, I did decide at the last minute that I'm going to go next year. This year they did 2 weekends. So they had one last weekend that I attended, weekend A, and then there's one that actually will be happening this weekend. Those folks should be like starting their retreat now in a couple days in. And each retreat had 100 people. Next year, their plan is to do just one retreat, 150 people. So we were able to express interest, and we had 74. I was actually the 73rd person because I was still trying to figure out. I really wanted to go again because I do enjoy the retreat, but it just, the expense of the travel to there and everything had me thinking that I wouldn't go next year. I also want to go to Galleria next year, and with a little Google search, I did see they have their 2025 dates, and it's the weekend before, so I could, in theory, do both. We'll see. Having all this stuff jam up all at one time, it's a little tricky with work, right? To be in and out this often. I have responsibilities there, and it's difficult if I'm out a lot within a short period of time. So anyway, I am signed up to go again. It will be just the one weekend next year. If you are interested, whenever their info comes out, you may want to see, I can't remember if they had a wait list. I think they just announced on their Facebook page. So the Gear on Stitchery Facebook page, they announced if they had seats that opened up. Or they're available on their website. So they're not there yet, but that's where I would recommend looking for those. All right, so when we got there, and Alabama was beautiful, by the way. Sorry, I forgot. It is green and hilly, and I wasn't expecting that. And the people there were amazing. I have never had such 4-star service out of any service employee that I cross paths with. And I've worked off and on in service at my company for 35 years. So I'm hypersensitive to quality service, and it really just everywhere, from the gas station, the hotel, the restaurants, the Uber drivers, the airport. You know, unfortunately, I'm used to Northeast, and we're not always so friendly, and service is sometimes given with a bit of an attitude, I'll just say, and there's none of that in Alabama. So definite Southern hospitality and graciousness. So love that. So when we got there, we got the usual, well, not usual, it was a very nice goodie bag. So we had a tote bag, which had goodies in it. It had a water bottle, which I used all weekend. and a really nice, I thought I had it here, but maybe, oh yeah, a notebook in Gary Green. This is now what we're referring to this color. This is his favorite color. And pen, what else was in there? Oh, and then my favorite part, one of the smaller Jardin tote bags. I've got it stuffed full of stuff, so it's not staying closed. Jardin tote bags, project pouches. And this one I especially loved because I had a project with me in this bag, and it's the same fabric. So I was like, oh, how cool is that? And I love this little retro. I love the little retro. It's like they're from antique Valentine cards, or Valentine. How about Halloween cards? But this little girl with the pumpkin right here reminds me, and this was a stamping thing, I actually was working on some Halloween cards to send out, and this was going to be my Halloween card this year. So I've got like a whole theme going here. So very nice tote bag from them. And then stuffed in here, these are all the goodies that people walked around and left on the table or handed. There's everything from floss drops to like charms for bags or scissors. There's scissors. Oh, there was a pair of scissors in our bag from Gary and Ronnie too. Little notepads. I thought these were cute. Just little tiny notepads. So I have gotten to retreats before and wanted to collect names and addresses and went, crap, I don't have anything anybody can write on, and end up passing around something dumb like a Post-it notepad. So these were very nice. I got to check out their Flosstube. It's stitching past my bedtime. I haven't had a chance to dig into any of the Flosstubes that were in here. A little Lizzie and Kate pattern. This was from one of my table mates. Lots of candy, although I've eaten all of it. Some gum, little embroidery. Not embroidery, little emery boards. And then one person came around with an entire stack of fabric and let you pick out which one you wanted. So I've got this little piece of purple linen. Anybody who watches me knows I don't really do purple. It doesn't match my house anywhere, in any room. But it is the perfect color for some Halloween stitching and sometimes Easter stitching. So I snagged some purple. It's like a little piece of purple linen. That was a very nice gift that someone was handing out. I'm not going to go through all this stuff because we'd be here all night. So that was my bag from them to match my big bag, and this has a project in it that I'll be sharing. While I'm talking about people handing things out, I got to meet two of my viewers there, Celia and Diane. They both came up. I knew Diane was going to be there. She, in her comments, had communicated to me. She was there last year as well, but we didn't really meet and talk. We didn't necessarily know who each other were, but I got to meet her this year, and she comments quite often on my videos and has since probably close to the beginning. I don't know. She may have learned about my Flosstube from last year's Stitching in the Wild. So it was fantastic to meet Diane and Celia. Celia's a doll. She comments sometimes as well. And yeah, I just had so much fun meeting people that I've connected with through Flosstube. And that was part of the reasons that I wanted to do the channel. Part of it was just a video log for myself of my stitching and my stitching journey. And part of it was to connect with other stitchers. So mission accomplished. And Diane, I was very excited. I want to share a couple things about Diane. So they did a raffle. They sold raffle tickets, and the money was going to St. Jude Shriners and Wounded Warriors. And they had different raffle prizes, and you put your coupons in, you know, whichever tub you wanted your name to be in for. And I was so excited because I won this project bag, and Diane had made and donated this project bag for the raffle. And she's hand appliqued the tomato one here and the, what the heck's that thing called? Penny patch up here. And it's my colors. We all know that. And I just love this bag. And it's very clever. It has a pocket on the back. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show this in a way that you'll be able to tell on camera. But this is it's two placemats. This is one placemat. It goes all the way down to the bottom almost. It's like an inch up from the bottom. And then this part here is just a placemat folded around and up. And then it's just stitched on the two sides. So 2 placemats, 2 seams. She did so on the Velcro. And you have a project bag. So I thought that was so clever, and I was laughing because I said I have some brand new placemats that I put in yard sale stuff in the basement that I keep thinking I'm gonna have a yard sale or take to Goodwill, something. I need to get some of this stuff out of here, and now I want to go pick in my own yard sale stuff and get the placemats back out because they actually are a perfect weight, and they're blue and white striped that would work nice for project bags. So I got to dig those back out and try to do a couple of these. But very excited to win something in the raffle. I'm trying to remember how many raffle prizes there were. They gave away a big stack of larger size project bags made out of that same Halloween fabric as the smaller project bags. And then there were a few bundles of fabric from Fox and Rabbit. Oh, Karen and Brendan from Fox and Rabbit were there. They were just there as attendees, although they spent a lot of the weekend taking pictures with people and signing patterns, and they were delightful. Poor Karen had no voice by Sunday because she'd been talking all weekend. I got off on a tangent and lost my train of thought. Oh, the raffle stuff. Really nice zipper project bag. It was like a Bianni's pattern, I think, with like zippered thing inserts that could pull out. It was a very complex, you know, not a single project bag, more something you could use for storage of some specialty things or something like that. What else did they raffle? That's all I'm remembering right now. Oh, there were some ornaments donated by Wounded Warriors or Shriners, and a blanket from Wounded Warriors. There were some things from the charities that they were raffling too. So anyway, I was excited to win the project pouch made by Diane. And before I stop talking about Diane, I want to talk about a project that she did that she had on the brag table. And I fell in love with it. It was so gorgeous that I asked her, would she mind if I shared it here? So I'm going to be putting some pictures in up here. She took a pattern from Twin Peaks Primitives, Critters, something Critters. The pattern will be up here and it has the name on it. It's something Critters. It might just be Critters. Anyway, it's cute little woodland creatures, and they're designed for like ornaments. So it's the single creature with some swirlies kind of around it. And she took 3 of them and she picked the perfect ones with the taller one in the middle and the other 2 facing inward. Her design is exceptional, the way she put them together. So I'll put a picture in up here now of what she put together. And is that amazing or what? It's the 3 critters, and then she just looked for other trees that she thought fit the style and picked out colors that she thought would work. And she built that entire forest behind the 3 little critters. And I especially thought she was very smart with her color choice. The trees in the front have the brighter colors and are larger, and then the trees behind it are mostly just in grays and smaller. and that's what you do in design if you were painting or anything. If you look at a picture or you look off into the distance, if you're somewhere where you have mountains, you know what I'm talking about. The farther the mountains are away, the more kind of hazy and gray and less distinct the colors look. So she did a fantastic job at creating depth in the scene. I just thought the scene was gorgeous, and I can't imagine being able to do that. So kudos to Diane, and hopefully that inspires everybody else to, you know, look at your things and see, you know, a lot of times we take pieces out, like I just want to stitch this one piece of this larger thing, but to take smaller things and put them together, it was brilliant. One last thing we had on the table, and then I'm going to stop talking about the retreat and dig into the stitching. Every seat had one of these. So flat, right? But it's the kind that snaps together all the corners, so you end up with the little Ort container. And Dina, the half stitch cross stitcher on Flosstube, and her friend Donna made 130 of these so that there was one for every seat. And I kind of chuckled, and I asked them about it on Sunday. There weren't a lot. There was only maybe 20 of us still there Sunday morning, and they were at the table right behind me Sunday, and I asked them, did you get like a quarter of the way into it and then think, what were we thinking? And they laughed and said, yeah. And it's something I would do. I'd be like, oh yeah, I can whip 100 of those out, no problem. Which sounds good in theory. Cutting them out would go really fast. Sewing them, all right, that's gonna take some time. You gotta sew them inside out, and then, you know, turn them right side out and stitch the top stitch all the way around. So you've got a couple times around happening there, but then you gotta put all those snaps in. So if you think about it, by the time you did 10, you would have put 80 snaps in, squeezing, you know, with a hand gripper thing that would crunch them down on there. So you know, after about 10 of these, your hand would start to ache, and you know the next day, anybody that's weed flowers in the flower bed knows what I'm talking about. The next day your hand would be all stiff and achy. But it was very sweet of them that everybody got one of these, and I definitely will be using this for retreats and travel. I have other little Ort trash catchers that I've made and handed out, but this one takes even less space. So this one could even make it into a retreat that I'm flying to. And I'm usually really stingy with what I'm taking along when I've got to fly. All right. Let me just double check my notes really quickly. I want to make sure I didn't forget anybody, because I would be horrified. I think I covered all the highlights that I wanted to there. So let's get into some stitching. My FFO that I am, no, it's not an FFO yet. My finish that I'm most excited about is ABC de la Brodeuse from Jardin Prive. And I've been working on this for quite a while, and it's done. I finished. And I took it off the scroll thing because I didn't want you to have to sit here while I undid all of the screws on the sides. But I haven't looked at the finished thing yet. Got a little extra piece of banding here. I got to decide what I want to do with that. I'm really excited that this is on the banding, because this is the banding from the mill out of Germany that after 500 years is having to go out of business because the mill flooded and the looms can't be repaired. They're 500 years old, and it's just not possible anymore. So that makes this banding special, and I'm glad I chose it to do this on. I did make some changes down here at the bottom. So the snail was lower and the flowers were lower, and then there was a vase, a flat on either side. I didn't really like the vases, and I wanted the year on here. So I moved the snail, it was like over here where the 2 is. So I swung it up. Same thing with the flowers over here, and then I squeezed the year in, and then the heart was just to fill in some space. But this part I finished this since my last Flosstube. And so now we're gonna look at the whole thing. I had a lot of fun stitching this. We are not gonna be able to see the whole thing. That's only about a third of it. The only other change that I made on here was the pattern calls for 2 pinks and I swapped them out for 2 reds. It was like the 224, 220 something pinks, which are like dusty mauve. And then these blues in here are the 930 range, which are like the Williamsburg blue. And that dusty mauve Williamsburg blue forever is going to scream 1980s to me. So I swapped it out for the reds. It wasn't my idea. There was an example on Jardin Prive's website. When you go to this pattern, there's examples stitched up, and another stitcher had done reds, and that's what inspired me to swap it out for the reds. But, and that's the top. I love this. Oh yeah. This is me for sure. I wish I could, I'm gonna have to figure out how to take a picture of the whole thing. I know the challenge will be that it's really small by then. So it's been a while since you guys saw this top part. There was a lot of, there's some places like this that are supposed to be like a piece of lace, and that is a combination of cross stitch and a lot of back stitch. So some of these lacy things are mostly back stitch. But there were no others, there were no specialty stitches. This little hornbook was one of my favorite motifs in here. I want to take just the little sheep, well, and the blue and green. I want to take it and do it in one of those miniature 1-inch embroidery hoops that I have. He's going to almost fit in there. I mean, this is 2/2 on 28 count. So if I do 32 count, I can do it I can do it 2/2, and he still will fit in that little teeny tiny embroidery hoop because he's not much bigger on here. And then I'll just, you know, do the green and the blue out to the edges so that the whole thing looks like full coverage in the little hoop. Oh yeah, I'm thrilled with this. I haven't decided. The back is actually looking pretty neat. I don't have anything. This linen is sort of a loose weave, so I had to be really careful and not carry at all. And so the back is looking very neat. So I may not even put anything on the back. I have a little like band sampler hanger. I got it from someone who makes hangers for quilts, and they had a small size. I have it all ready for this, so I may just hem up the bottom and sew the top down so that it will slide onto the hanger, and this may be ready to hang. It needs a good ironing too, but so that is done. This has been a focal piece of mine for the last, I don't know, few months, where I was trying to do a width of my scroll rod each 2-week cycle. So I'm replacing it now with that kind of focus with the 1 dozen Quakers, because I'm trying to catch up on that stitch along, which is Bake Me a Dozen. EJ from 614 from EJ from Sunshine Stitchers is hosting. Candy 614 Stitcher is participating, and Candy's the one that convinced me, oh, you can catch up. And I may catch up. We'll see. My plan is to work on that this weekend, and that's going to be a focus piece because the stitch along ends in December. They had it broken up through November, and then December is the catch-up month. So I'm really moving on now to holiday seasonal stitching, but I'm going to keep stitching on that one. And we picked one on the last Zoom, at least I think it's where we're going to land, for a stitch along for next year, and it is Put a Bird on It from Modern Folk Embroidery. Somebody mentioned wanting to do some Modern Folk Embroidery, and EJ said, oh, I've been wanting to do Put a Bird on It. So I think we agreed to do that one. It's bigger than the 1 dozen Quakers, but 1 dozen Quakers has a lot of little Quakers motifs that are 1/1, and so it is deceptive in the amount of stitching, because those, even though they're small, basically are you know, a lot more stitching than what that size on a chart would normally be. So I think it's going to be about the same amount of stitching for the put a bird on it. I'm hoping I can maybe find that pattern at the attic. One of my viewers did confirm the attic is sampler heavy, but I'm in Phoenix next week and the following week, so I'm staying through the weekend in between my work business meetings, and that Friday I took off so that I can go to the attic and check things out there. So I'm gonna look for put a bird on it there. There's something else new that was out that I want to look for there, and I need to remember to look at patterns and try and remember what that was. So my next finish from the 2021 Just Cross Stitch Halloween, I've been working on this one right here with the pumpkins and the cat, and it is called, it's from Autumn Lane Stitchery, and it's called something mood, Current Mood. And on the pattern it says happy, afraid, cat, angry. I'm not putting the words on. And I've got one more pattern in here that I definitely want to stitch. And it's another little retro girl with the pumpkin. She looks like that bag and the, you know, it's this style, like the stamp that I was holding up. So yeah, I am drawn to that style over and over again. So I want to stitch her. And then I was thinking that was the only two things that I wanted to stitch from this, but then when I was gathering my stuff and I was looking at the cover, there's some other cute things on here. So I may still be doing more stitching from here. Not this year, but. So here is my finished piece. This is on fabric printed, digitally printed fabric from Fabric Flare. So if you looked at the back, it's white fabric, but when you look at the front, it's more of a cream color. And then of course it's got this spider web all digitally printed on there. I think it's 28 count. Yeah, pretty sure it's 28 count. I know the Fabric Flare, I think it only comes in 28 and 32, and some patterns like this would only be in one, so I'm pretty sure it's 28. I'm not stitching the words because the spider webs are a little busier than a plain fabric. And I did stitch mine with DMC. It is charted for DMC or Sullivan's. I wondered if their sample is stitched with Sullivan's because the colors don't look the same. When I first started stitching this, I almost didn't keep going because this pumpkin and this pumpkin, I did this one first and I thought it looked too brown. And then this looks a little too neon orange. It looks okay from a distance. But up close, I was not loving the colors, and I wondered if it's because I'm using DMC, and was it really charted in Sullivan's, and this was just the closest you could get with DMC. I'm totally speculating there. But here it is up close. So this weekend, I want to raid my frames, and hopefully I have something the right size for this. Because I don't really want to buy a frame. I would like to. It's gonna be a hard size to find. So I do have a lot of long skinny frames in stash. It's one of the shapes that I often look for at the thrift shops. And so I'm hoping that I have something that will work for this. I've got a little bit extra wrapped around the back, but this is the full width that I have. And actually, I wouldn't want it to be much longer than this. And I would like it to be a little narrower. We'll see. That's my plan for this weekend, is to dig for something to finish that. And also something to finish this. So these are my Quaker pumpkins. The pattern is from Hello from Liz Matthews. I am stitching it on 32 count fiber on a whim butternut squash. And I wanted mine to be fall, not Halloween. So mine does not have All Hallows Eve. It does not have the crow, and there's more white space at the top because I sized it to fit in a 10 by 20 frame, which is a standard size frame. You can buy it in Michael's Hobby Lobby, any of those kinds of places. They're designed to hold multiple 5x7s, but I think 3 5x7s. Yeah, 3 5x7s this way. So then the total frame is 10x20, and that's what I sized it to fit in. So I did have to raise this. I had this all finished, except I needed to stitch a few Quakers in here. Actually, it's these two, because that's where the crow, one of the crows should go. And then I only had a little tiny piece of this top border done. And can I tell you, that border takes forever. It is very stitch heavy, and this is 20 inches wide. So I did the border and I did this. I finished this on Sunday, so this was my Sunday stitch at Stitching in the Wild. That last morning I was able to get this done. So finished the top row and that side, and then picked out a couple flosses and Quakers to squeeze in there, and it's done. So I already have a frame for this, and my goal is to also frame this week and get it put up. I think this weekend I may go ahead and decorate for Halloween and fall. I'm going to be gone until the 3rd. Yeah, until the 3rd. So if I do all the decorating this weekend, then when I come home, it will be October and my decorations will be up, and I'll be happy. I love decorating for Halloween, but it is one of those holidays where some years October sneaks up on me. I mean, not just the beginning of October. I mean, all of a sudden I realize it's like the 12th or something, and then I'm kind of like, do I have all this stuff out for only 2 weeks? Not that I have a lot, but I love some of my Halloween decorations, and then I'm mad at myself that I'm only going to have them out for a couple weeks. But anyway, this is finished, and I like this butternut squash. I think I bought this. I know I bought this to do fall stitching on. I don't remember if I bought this fabric specifically to do this piece on. I may have. But I think I just saw it, and it was bright and gold, and I thought, ooh, wouldn't some autumn reds and oranges look good on that? And so here we are. It's done. All right. On to whips. I've got a couple starts here. I've got a whip. I have been working on Country Cottage Needlework's Beach Boardwalk series. Slowly. So the series is 7 pieces. It's 6 little shops. And then this pattern, which it says Boardwalk on it. So sort of like the entryway to the arcade or boardwalk. I am never going to get 6 shops and this done at the rate I'm going. And I'll be honest, it's maybe not my favorite type of stitching. And I have started considering this a little more when I pick out patterns. I don't enjoy stitching huge blocks, not much counting, all the same color. I don't mind doing, I actually love doing single color things like Quakers, a lot of counting happening. I don't like, you know, just this sand down here is, I forget, it's like 700 stitches just to do the sand. And it's a lot of, all right, let me go all the way across. No counting involved. And this feels like that kind of stitching over and over and over again, the whole thing almost. So I don't love stitching on it. I am doing it 1/2 on 36 count tabby cat, cat's whiskers. It's tabby cat, it's something whiskers. I don't have the card here. Where is it? Oh, it's tabby cat linen. and the color is called Whiskers, I think. It has whiskers in it. I had the ice cream shop done, and then that is the snack shop next to it. I am actually going to change out. I'm not going to put snacks up here. I'm going to put the word Dollies, D-O-L-L-E-S. Dollies is the popcorn shop in Rehoboth. For decades, it was right on the main corner. And just this year or last year, they moved. As part of the moving, they always had this big rooftop sign that says Dollies, and it's the iconic shot of the Rehoboth Boardwalk is catching that corner with the big Dollies sign on the roof. And I understand as part of the negotiation of selling the building and moving, that sign will stay there. My dad loves Dolly's popcorn. It's caramel popcorn. And they sell taffy too, I think. I don't know. We always just got popcorn there. But unfortunately, I didn't get a second one done. And I've got to get at least one done a year because I'm thinking I won't do 6 shops and the Boardwalk sign. I will do 4 shops and the Boardwalk sign. So I'll cut 2 of them out. One's a surf shop. You don't really surf in Delaware. You'll see some people trying. We don't have the right kind of waves, so surfing isn't an East Coast thing, really. It is if you go farther south. I'm sorry. You get into the Carolinas. You get farther south, and surfing is a thing. Up here, it's not the right kind of waves. We're on the bay. We're not on the ocean. Even on the ocean, it's not a thing. So I'm not going to do the surf shop, and then if I have to cut another one out, it may be the bicycle shop, but that means everything I think will be food. We'll see. So I think I'm going to do 4 and Boardwalk. So that would mean 5 altogether, and I only have 1.5 done. So at the rate I'm going, it's going to be a decade. I've got to get more done on this next year than I did this year. I won't stitch on this anymore now. This is my summer stitching, and I don't love stitching on it, and so that's my excuse to not stitch on this anymore this year. But next year, I'm going to pick up the base. All right, this one I had a blast with. This was one of my days of stitching at the retreat, and it's Blackbird Designs, Strawberry Fields Forever. And I had this started before I went. And this one, my plan is to stitch it all except this vase. I'll show you where I'm at on my stitch piece and what my plan is. I don't love this vase in here. It's something about the chevron. It's partly just the size, but it partly always looks lopsided to me. I just don't like this vase. So the vase may not get stitched in there. I may just bring these down and stitch in a couple more leaves on them and just make this vine the whole thing. I will be happier with that. But loving the piece. So this is on navy bean. Who makes navy bean? They're from England. Where's my, I don't know what I did with my project bag this came out of. Oh, if anybody wants it's going to come to me later. If anybody wants the linen maker, let me know. It is called navy bean. I do know that. I'm just drawing a blank right now on the dyer. So I am stitching it with the Vicky Clayton silks, and this is them in the bobbin holder because they come on little spools, and I am loving the silks. So last year I had stitched all of the border, and then there's a couple little random things in here that are stitched. That was me finishing up the floss that I had cut off, rather than wrapping it back around the spool. It's probably my only complaint about the Vicky Clayton silks. Working with the spool can be a bit of a hassle. Not enough that it would prevent me from working with them again, but so that's what I tend to do. If I have a piece of floss left, I would just go ahead and stitch something that I could find without, you know, counting clear in here to the middle, just to use up my floss. So I got all of this done. I got the stone fence, and then this fancy gate. That was a lot of fun to stitch. I've got some greenery here, another piece of fence, and then this is the very start of the house. So my plan is next to do the house, then to stitch the flowers in around and come down this way, and then I'll be in that last part and I'll decide what I'm going to do about the vase that I don't like. But there it is up close. These silks just lay beautifully. They don't twist, they don't tangle, they don't knot. They are a dream to work with. Maybe my favorite silk. I really do like Belle Soie though. And I really do like Gloriana, but it could twist or knot sometimes. These are over-dyed silks. So she dyes them in the colorways of Gentle Arts. So these are the, I'm not sure you can tell they're over-dyed here. Well, you can on this. This is Coffee Bitters, and it's got grays and browns in it. That's in the fence, the stone fence. You can maybe tell in the greens here. It's a little hard on camera to see, but they are variegated over-dyes. Gary and I had a conversation, and I actually went through afterwards and did a little bit of math and research. So he said if you hold one, like if you go to Vicki Clayton's site, she has the conversion to and from Gentle Arts to her silks. And he said if you hold the Gentle Arts up next to the silk, they are very, very close. And we were talking about it, and we were talking about the price per yard. And guys, these silks are cheaper than the cotton. The silks are $3.50 per spool, but it's 8.7 yards, and they're 6 strands. They're not 12 strands like some silks. These are 6 strands, but 8.7 yards. The Gentle Arts is 2 something, I forget how much now, for 5 yards. These come out cheaper per yard, and they're silks, and they are a dream to work with. So just something to consider if you have a project that's calling for Gentle Arts, you know, unless it's only going to use 6 inches or something, you may not want to spend the money on the silks. But you know, if it's something that's going to use up a big chunk of Gentle Arts, it might be worth looking at the silks, because they are, like I said, dreamy to work with. Yeah, other than the, you know, the spool can be a bit of a hassle. You see like straggly threads in here, and that's where I've cut a length and I've taken out the 2 strands that I needed for stitching, and then I've wrapped the rest of the cut length back around the spool, so they can get a little bit unkempt, but you know, whatever. So that's my Blackbird. This may not get any more stitching until next year now, because I am into my seasonal stitching, and I've only got the few months for seasonal stitching. But I started this last year for sampler September, and this will not wait until next September to come back out. So I'm leaving it in the bin that I pull from more frequently, so that this gets pulled out earlier next year and gets some love. I would really like to finish this next year. It's Lakeside linen. I knew it would come to me. Lakeside linen, navy bean. I remember the navy bean. Lakeside's what I was drawing a blank on. All right, this next one. This is one that I had shown a while back. It's the Something Wicked from La Di Da. And I also have the Toil and Trouble, which is the same size, long, but it's a long witch's nose. And I want to stitch both of them. And I showed them because I'd originally bought some green fabric to stitch this on. Only then when I got the Toil and Trouble, the green witch and her nose was not going to show up well enough. So you guys gave me ideas about back stitching around it and doing it on the green or doing it on the blue. And then my friend Maureen suggested doing it on a piece of marigold fabric, which I had hand dyed myself. It was when I was playing around with dyeing fabrics a couple months ago, and once I held the flosses up next to the marigold, I really got stuck on doing it on the marigold, and so that is what I chose. It's going to be a tight fit, so this is the edge right here. I may end up having to sew some fabric on so that I can frame this properly, but that's fine. I can deal with that. This is another one like the house, or like the little boardwalk shops, which I very quickly get bored with working on. It is Aida, 18 count Aida. I am doing the shoe in 2 strands, and it's a little bit bulky. So I may switch and only do 1 strand for the words, but I wanted the shoe to be a good solid black without any of this marigold showing through. So it's working. It's a tiny bit bulky. I have a feeling it's one of those ones where 1 strand I wouldn't be happy with because it wouldn't be enough coverage, and 2 strands is just a skosh too much. But this is like 700 stitches stitched on here, and all I have is this freaky looking black shape. You know, this bottom row right here is like 150 stitches just in that. Yeah, maybe it's not. Maybe it's more like 500 stitches. But I'm liking it on the marigold fabric, so thank you for that suggestion, Maureen. This is going to go to Phoenix with me. It is a fantastic piece for stitching on like a plane or something because it's 1 color. Stitching by the Shore was saying that same thing, that she liked the single colored pieces for travel pieces, and they're great for in a car or on a plane or something like that, because then you're not, you know, digging around trying to find the next floss. You've just got one. I just left the 1 skein of floss sitting there on the plane tray. I worked on this on the flight home from Montgomery. But yeah, it's one of those things. I've talked about it with snowmen. I love snowmen, but I get so bored doing all that weight stitching for the snowman, and I'm afraid this boot is going to be the same, but I am going to plow through and get this done without too much whining or complaining to you guys, hopefully, because I really want this, and I would like to get this one done, finished this year, and maybe the other one next year. I don't think I'll get both of them finished this year, but maybe. See how much I get done on my trip with the boot. So it will get more interesting. Like right now, I started on the bottom because I started in this corner. And so this really long piece is really boring. But then I'm going to get into some counting here for the curly Q, and this will get a little bit more interesting as we go up. It won't be as wide a rows, so you start to feel like you're making more progress anyway. And then I don't think I'm going to do the single cross, the border that goes all the way around. It's just a border of X's going all the way around, and I'm not sure it necessarily adds anything. And it does make framing a bit trickier. So I probably am not going to do that border. I also will be sick of stitching that black by then. But you will be seeing more of this. It's gone on my trip with me. All right, my last one that I worked on. This is a purchase that I made. It was some of the exclusives that they had in the annex at Stitching in the Wild. So the annex was smaller this year than it was last year. And I get that. They've got the LNS now. It was about 90 minutes away. I unfortunately wasn't able to make it with my travel arrangements. Next year I would love to swing by there. But the focus in the annex was really on some exclusive charts that they had, and they had 5 or 6 exclusive charts. And then for anything that they had exclusives for, they had the packets made up with the flosses, and they had fabric there for the cut for the chart. So if there was something you saw and you wanted to start it that weekend, you could grab everything and you were good to go. And that was really smart. But I chose to buy and start. I bought a few, but I chose to start my Fox and Rabbit ones since they were actually at the retreat. And it's called Witch's Hearth. And pretty sure this will be available at some point, I'm going to guess for next Halloween, to the public. Because Gary did tell me he heard a rumor, which had to have come from Karen, that this may be a series. That there may be another piece or more to go with it. But I thought she was just a fun witch, and I really wanted to start and work on a Fox and Rabbit piece. They had a few trunk show items there. They had a trunk show from Erica Michaels, who they also had last year. Dirty Annie's, Fox and Rabbit. I keep forgetting who was in that one corner. Oh, Blue Flower. And then there was someone to the right of Blue Flower, and that's who I can't think of. They only had maybe half a dozen patterns from Fox and Rabbit, so I decided to go ahead and do the Halloween exclusive. I didn't buy this fabric when I finally decided this is the one I was going to work on. They were sold out of the fabric that they had for it. So Fabrics by Stephanie was there, and she had a lot of tubs of her fabric, and this is one. So this is Murtaugh, and I just thought it was a lot of fun to do the witch on. So I got a nice chunk of the witch done, her whole head there and a little bit of her hair. I haven't decided if I'm going to do the skirt in the purple or not. It's sort of a lilac, and I'm not sure how it's going to look on this fabric. So I'm going to stitch everything else except the skirt and then make my decision about the skirt. I debated doing it in orange, but that's not going to work because she's holding an orange pumpkin, which then won't show up. I could do it in a different green. I could do it in a different purple. That may be what I do. It's just the pinky lilac color is not working. But here's the little witch up closer. Not as the Halloween pieces that I bought are not as cute, and I mean cute like the genre cute, as what I normally would do for Halloween. Normally all of my decorations are cute more than they are spooky or creepy, but I liked her. And I love this fabric, although the other side, so if you're looking at Murtaugh, this is why I love seeing things in person, because this is what the other side looks like. So if I saw a picture of this and ordered it, and then what arrived was this, I would be really disappointed. Because this side is more blue, which is hints of the tan in there. And then this side, I really think is more of the tan and brown, so just a tiny bit of the blue. I honestly don't know what I'll do with this side. But it would be something really different to have in my stash, which is always good. So that was my piece that I worked on there, and that is the end of my stitching. I have a little bit of stash to show. I was good with the stash. I didn't go too crazy. I did buy some of the pony needles. So I talked about these a while back, and a lot of people are talking about the black pony needles, and I didn't really know what they meant, but let's see if I can get them to show up if I cover my face. These are actually, the needles are coated with something that makes them black, and then the heads are white, and then they say not nickel plated. Somebody said that these were designed for people who are highly sensitive to nickel. The black ones are what most people are talking about. The people at the table behind me were not having a good experience with these. So 2 of them said that they got like a burr and were either catching on their fabric or their floss. But it was almost like the coating wasn't holding up. The ones I had before and that I bought more of are not black, and I'm assuming they're nickel. The heads are the only parts that are colored. So you can probably see on these, they're an aqua color, and then these are more of a magenta color. and it's just the eye, and I like having just the head colored. It's nice then, because, you know, if you're reaching to grab a needle that you've used before, because I don't get a brand new needle for every project, you know what size you're grabbing. Now these, I also noticed the size 28, which are the magenta tops. These needles, I'm not even sure are an inch long. These are shorts. So for anybody who likes shorts, like the John James, which they quit making, although I've heard maybe they're going to start making them again, these might be an option for you to look into if you like shorts. These needles, I've been stitching for the last month with one of these aqua ones. And when I mean I've been stitching with it for the last month, it's been like my needle. So I put my project away, and that needle I'm still using then on my next project, and my next one, and my next one. The needle, I stick on a magnet next to my chair. And so that needle will get used either until I go on a retreat and need to put it in a project in a bag, or I lose it. And I don't really lose needles, so it's holding up fine. I haven't had any of the snagging or burrs. We wondered too if maybe it was like a bad run of them or something, but just a word of warning about the Pony Blacks. I bought 3 patterns. 3, that's all. The first one I bought was not one of the exclusives. It's Little Robin Designs Literary Love Notes. And they're quotes from some famous romantic literature. Like, I know this one's Pride and Prejudice. And then I think we've got Jane Eyre. And something from Fitzgerald. But I don't know. It's this quote, but I don't know what it's from. I'm going to have to Google that. I want to just stitch those up. They'll be really fast stitches. I just want to stitch those up for a little thing for Valentine's Day. And then I bought 2 of the exclusives. So everybody was loving this Ghost Pumpkin from La Di Da. And I saw a lot of fun fabrics that people were pulling out of their stash or buying to stitch this on. I actually bought fabric that they were selling for something else, and it's Seraphim Fabrics Timberwolf, which is a kind of a dark slate blue, and I'm going to stitch this on there. Here are the, I did not show the pattern. Here are the flosses for it. So they'll show up on there. I bought the flosses because I thought I was going to start it. Oh, I bought the flosses for 2 reasons. 1, I thought I was going to start it there. And 2, the flosses are not exactly the same as the colors that are on the chart. Apparently, when she was working on the chart for Gary, she told him what color flosses, and he bought those and kitted them up, and they maybe are not the final list that got used. So the flosses that he was selling is slightly different, and I saw both color combinations, and I like this one. So that's why part of why I have the flosses, and I thought I was maybe going to start it there. And then this other one that I bought, this one's not me at all, but I just kept being drawn back to it. You know how sometimes you see a stitched piece and it just keeps drawing you back over and over? I probably went to the annex just to walk around. I didn't buy something every time, obviously, but I went and walked around probably half a dozen times, and I kept being drawn to this one. And so I finally broke down and bought it. It's from Little Robin Designs, and it is called Wilding Hill Manor. And it's a little more gothic than what I normally would do. I think part of it too, it was reminding me of the South with this willow tree. And I don't know, this is like Loch Ness Monster or something here. It's kind of swampy looking. It just made me think of the South, I think, was part of it. And I was in the South. Not that it was swampy where I was at. And I didn't see any willow trees, but yeah. So I did buy the floss pack for that too. It was pretty colors, so. And it's Classic Colorworks. I don't have very many Classic Colorworks. And then the last thing that I bought, we're almost done, folks. I bought 2 fabrics from Stephanie that I was going to show. One, I was hoping to buy this. I would have bought more than 1 piece of this if she had it. I should have just gone on her website and ordered like a yard of it. But it is 28 count Lugana, and it's called the Nantucket Sky. And I have used this before, and it's the perfect cloudy summer sky for pieces. So I'm doing the Madame Chantilly, that's the little girl catching stars with a with like a butterfly net, and it has a quote on the bottom that's in French, an Oscar Wilde quote. And I also did Carrot Market on this. I know what I did on this Nantucket Sky, and it's one of the few fabrics that I remember the name and who it's from and everything. Always remember it. And I went hoping, this was on my shopping list when I went, I was hoping I could get another piece of Nantucket Sky, and she had 1 piece, and I got it. All right, this other one, don't fall out. I bought purple linen. This is a new color for her. It's Hecate. And it is just a gorgeous purple. I have no idea what, well, I do have one idea of what I may do on this. And it reminded me that I have a pattern that was not in the fall stuff that I showed, so I need to figure out where it's at. It's a single color pattern, Halloween, and it would work on this. But I don't know where the pattern is. I may know where it is. But, yeah, so this is Hecate, H-E-C-A-T-E. And she said it's brand new. So I don't remember if she said it was like a fabric of the month maybe, and now it's will be loaded on the site. It's brand new, I know that. All right, and then I have a few freebies I was gonna share. I was very excited on the freebie table. I picked up finally a Farm Girl. It's Matilda, the little mouse sitting on a spool. I can't show it because it's just the pattern. It looked like somebody had a calendar, a cross stitch calendar, and they tore all the pages out, and I grabbed that one. I as soon as I saw it, it was a colored pattern, and I went, ooh, that's finally a Farm Girl. I want that one. This next one, Raise the Roof, Witchy Washy. I have liked this pattern for a long time. I saw the model done up at Shepherd's Bush back in April and wanted to buy it, and they were out of it. And then I've been somewhere else and saw it and wanted to buy it, and they were out of it. So I looked on Garon's site, and he was out of it. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to wait until I cross this in my travels. I'm done looking for this. I could have emailed Gary and they'd have ordered it, I'm sure, but it was on the freebie swap table. And especially score, I took, I don't know, like 10 patterns, and I only pulled off 2, and that's my goal. Come home with less than I go with, so that held true on the freebie table at least. And then in our tote bag, well, they gave us a separate folder. There were really nice freebie patterns. So we've got Lucy Beam, Place Your Pins, really cute little pin cushion. And Gary had stitched all of these up. These next ones I'm going to have to insert a picture. He did from Kesslin Creations. It's fall, y'all, and I just love the little crazy cat on this one. This one will be getting stitched for sure. And then these were cute and were finished in one of my favorite finishing methods. So they've done it on like a plate, like a charger. And this, the witch is in. This is also from Kesslin's, and it was funny seeing Kesslin's there since I just saw tons of Kesslin's when I was in Oregon at Acorns and Threads. And then there is finally the Farm Girl that says Stitching in the Wild, Alabama. And it's got a little raccoon and Matilda, and I can't remember the name of the little orange cat, and then there's a bear holding a sign that says 2024. I will show it when I have it stitched. I will stitch it. They didn't have a sample of it, so I couldn't take a picture. There was nothing to take a picture of. But I think that is everything. I'm losing my voice, and want to get this started uploading so that I'm sure I can get it out there for you all for Saturday morning. I leave this week for Arizona. I haven't figured out what I'm taking with me other than that boot on the Ada that I know I can stitch easily on the plane and in the hotel room. I'm a lot of it is work travel, and I'm traveling with coworkers, and so we're gonna have kind of busy days and probably evenings as well. So I'm not sure how much stitching I'm going to get done, but at least a handful of the days there in the middle is just me traveling on my own, and then I've got the 4.5-hour flight out and back to stitch. So hopefully I can get enough stitching done to have something to show you in 2 weeks when I get back. And we'll see what I find at the attic. I may have some stuff from there to show as well, although I'm still trying to behave and not buy too much. So I hope you all are having a fantastic time stitching, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you for visiting. Bye.